Join me for the next interview as I talk with Onnie Michalsky about making the time to find who you are as a mom. Onnie Michalsky is a mom of 6, a licensed therapist, and a life and wellness coach for overscheduled, stressed out women who have lost themselves under their mom hat. Onnie empowers moms to escape the do-it-all mentality and break through the limiting beliefs that are keeping them from becoming their best self. Her mission, as a founder of the Moms Without Capes movement, is to help women slow down, recognize their worth, and find their way back to themselves. Onnie is the host of Moms Without Capes podcast. Grab your coconuts, whatever that means, and be ready to be inspired and empowered. Welcome, Onnie. It's such a pleasure, an honor to have a beautiful soul like yourself today. A mom of 6, is it? A mom of 6, yeah. Wow. And I want to welcome you to the Coconut Soul Spirit podcast, or YouTube channel, I should say. And I'd like to right now jump in and invite you to share your self-love story with us.
Well, thanks for having me, first of all. And so my self-love story, which, it's a long one, I would say. Like you already mentioned, I have 6 kids. So for a long time, actually right before you hit record, we were talking about the soul location. Yeah. And that was part of my self-love journey, right? Yeah. So before that, I really struggled with a lot of uncomfortable emotions, low self-esteem, feeling like I had a lot of expectations of motherhood that I had to work through in order to be free, in order to feel comfortable in my own skin. And all of that, I would say my story kind of begins 2011. I can give a date to it, where I started really dealing with a lot of the guilt that I was feeling with being able to spend time on myself, to focus on myself. And prior to that, it wasn't that I didn't take care of myself, or it wasn't that I didn't, put myself on my own to-do list. Like I had, there was things that I was doing for myself, but there was a lot of guilt that came around, a lot of shame, I should say, that came with it, thinking that I wasn't sacrificing myself for my family as much as I needed to be. Right.
Okay. Well, we're just going to go over that again.
Okay.
So you said that you didn't think you were sacrificing yourself enough for your family. And because of that, you felt guilt and shame. Is that what you just said?
Yes. I felt, because I had these expectations, like to be a good mom, you had to completely sacrifice yourself for your family. Yes. And those times that I was able to like break through and like do something for myself.
Good for you.
Like personally, like that didn't benefit anyone else, right? Of course it did benefit, because there's a ripple effect from being able to prioritize myself. But on those times that I did something like primarily just for myself, there was such shame about it that it kept me stuck. It kept me playing small because of that, because I had those expectations. And so in 2011 was really when I started becoming proactive in my own self-growth and recognizing that not only was I like holding myself back, but I was affecting my whole family. I was affecting my kids, and because I wasn't showing my authentic self. There was a lot of things that I hid because I thought good moms don't do that, right?
Yeah, right.
Good moms wouldn't do that.
Like, exactly.
And so I held myself back, and my older kids. So let me just give a little background here. So yes, I am a mom of 6. I've been married 23 years. Yeah, 24, almost 24 years. And our kids range from 23 as our oldest. We've got a 19-year-old, two twin 16-year-olds.
Wow.
They're twins. And one of those is a boy, one of the 16-year-old. He's our only boy. So the rest are all girls.
Okay.
And then a 13-year-old daughter and an 8-year-old daughter.
Yeah.
So we've got the whole gamut. I'm still very much in the thick of mothering.
Yes.
And I always say, like, well, how I raised my 23-year-old is different than how I raised my 8-year-old.
Of course.
But it was also me, myself, who has changed.
Yes.
And the feelings that I feel towards myself have changed as well.
Mm.
One is just like the natural progression of time.
Mm-hmm.
You live and learn kind of stuff.
Yes.
But then another piece is because I have really, I don't know what the word is, like I've really pushed forward in my own personal development,
Mm-hmm.
that kind of put that in fast forward, or like put that in, spend a lot of time in that space, and really
Time with yourself.
Yeah, on myself, especially since I started shifting the expectations that I was holding. And once I started doing that, it really created this momentum to be able to completely change the way I feel towards myself. And that was what allowed me to become a better parent. I mean, sadly for my 23-year-old, no, she would not agree. She'd be like, "You did fine, Mom. You did fine."
She's lovely.
But like being able to show up as a different version of myself has really allowed, has changed the dynamics of my family.
Wow. For the better, of course. Yeah. And so you talk about that guilt, and it's a good thing that you were able to take some time for yourself. Some moms don't, and some others have that guilt or that shame.
Yes.
Where did that come from? That's the first part of my question. And the second part is, there's actually 3 parts.
Okay.
So first part, how come you had that shame, that guilt? Second part, what happened for you to realize that maybe you shouldn't feel that way? And the third part is, what were the steps you took to be able to get rid of that? I want to know it all. That's why I have all those questions.
So question number 1, where did that come from?
Yes.
So I would say that a lot of the guilt and the shame came from, or like the guilt and the shame around prioritizing myself came from, just my childhood and my own mom. In fact, on the Moms Without Capes podcast, podcast, I interviewed my mom on episode 101.
Wow.
And it's funny because I ask all of my guests, like, what do you do for self-care? Like, what's your go-to self-care practice? And I knew that was going to stump my mom, because growing up, that was how she never took time for herself. Like till this day, she said sleep was her self-care, or like resting during the day, like intentional rest during the day. But, which of course is self-care, but growing up, like my mom was very much a devoted mother, as far as not that working moms aren't, but she did work, but she was a stay-at-home mom. Like we were her life. And my one brother is special needs. And so he consumed a lot of her time and attention, and there was 4 of us growing up. And so I just grew up believing that I was going to be a stay-at-home mom. I was going to give up. I was going to put all of my hopes and dreams and any kind of anything that I had wished for on the shelf so that I can go entirely. Like that was just how I was raised. It wasn't wrong. Like that was just how I was raised. And so that was really where those feelings came from, were those beliefs that I had formed growing up, just watching my mom and watching how my family of origin was. And my grandmother was a stay-at-home. Like there were so many different parts.
Role models.
Yeah, the role models that I had were the ones that shelved. Like my grandmom, she had gone to college late in life. And she had went for art history. And I remember And I don't even know how old I was. I must have been like, we went to the same college. She handed me my diploma and everything.
Oh, that's so cool.
She had graduated a few years before that. And my pop or my grandfather, wouldn't let her work outside the home. Okay. So like, even she had got this college degree, and I knew like she loved like history. She dreamed of like working in an art museum or something, but like, no, like that was out of the question. And of course there are different generations,
of course,
right?
Yes.
But as a kid, for like formative years, learning all of this and seeing how my family is, like, okay, well, apparently we're not allowed to have dreams. We're not allowed to have goals. Like, it was just kind of, it is what it is. And so even though I was college educated, like I out of college, I had gone back, like I actually went for my master's right after I was married.
Congratulations.
My daughter was 1. I'd gone back to school. I was working a little bit, but even with that, like it was just kind of ingrained like that. It was just expected. And then I came to expect it of myself. So
yes. And I understand it, especially with your grandma. If it was before 7, it's really strong.
Yeah, there's formative years.
Exactly, exactly. Yep. And then your mom also was the same example. So it was even stronger for you.
Exactly. Okay. So it's just those role models that I had. And then in 2011, what happened was we moved to Montana in 2009. So we moved across the country in the US, and I was homeschooling our kids. I started getting involved in some of the community aspects, which I was involved also when we were in Pennsylvania. I was leading Girl Scouts. All of the things that I was doing had to do in some capacity with my kids.
Yes.
Right? Like
they were the center of your universe.
Yeah, I was in a mom's club. Like all the things had to do with me in my role as a mother. Yes. And so when I moved to Montana, one of the first things that I took a role in was in our pool. I became the president of their fundraising committee, or the Friends of the Pool is what it's called. And even though my kids used the pool, like it was really just a step away. Like this is a great question, because I'm like, I don't think I've ever analyzed like what changed for me. And I'm thinking maybe that was it. Like it was my first thing that was like away from my role as a mom. I started getting into the fitness space. Wow. And I started teaching Zumba, which is really funny because one of my friends wanted me to take a Zumba class. And I remember feeling I came up with every excuse in the book. Yeah, I wanted to try the Zumba class, and I wanted to try it. I really wanted to try it. But every time she would ask me, I'd be like, well, I have to make sure the kids are done their schoolwork. I have to make sure the house is perfect. I have to make sure dinner's cooked. I have to make sure like my husband's at home to watch the kids. I continued to like put these excuses in front of thinking that everything had to be perfect in order for me to step away. And it kept, she was persistent, thank goodness.
She's a good friend.
Yes. So she was persistent until one night it seemed like all the stars lined up.
Yeah. Everything was perfect.
I had dinner in the slow cooker. The kids were done. The laundry was folded, like all things. And my husband's like, just
You're
go.
Amazing. Wow.
So I don't know, all the stars lined up. Maybe that was just the way I was seeing it. I don't know. It was like 12 years ago or 9 years ago, whatever.
Wow.
So I went to the class and I fell in love with it. And that in itself was this positive reinforcement that kept me going back. Like, so then the next night, like I was like, I started like letting some things go. Like, dinner doesn't have to be like, I can delegate this. The laundry doesn't have to be all folded. I can delegate, I can eliminate some things so that I could go to the Zumba class. So I started doing that, eventually became an instructor, which one thing led to another. And then I became a health coach. I started back to work as a counselor, like back in my mental health agency in my town. And till I got to this point where I'd started my own businesses. And so it kind of was like this journey that took me to like where I started Moms Without Capes. And I help other moms find their unicorn space, or like find time for themselves, not find time, make time for themselves.
Exactly. That is inspiring. I feel it in my body. Yeah, I'm that type of person. I feel stuff.
So I forget your third question.
That's okay. We'll come
Maybe
back.
I answered it.
It's fun what happened to you. And you know how you went to Zumba and then you were able to let go of some things? For me, how my interpretation is that your role as a mom was your main role.
Yes.
And as you became Zumba, then you discovered that you were a human being.
More than a mom. I was more than a mom.
You were a woman. And because that part of you was growing, you could let go of the role of the mom. You didn't have to be perfect anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that you didn't attach that much importance to those things anymore because you didn't, from my point of view, and correct me if I'm wrong, but maybe you didn't identify yourself to those things that needed to be perfect because you got satisfied, I would think, in Zumba.
Yeah.
And that is,
well, before that, like I see I see like my worth was so attached to my role as a mom that I had a hard time seeing myself as anything else. And then once I started giving myself permission to like explore these other parts of me, I was able to see like, you know, I'm so much more than that. Like that's just a role that I play. And my worth is not attached to that. It's not attached to my productivity. It's not attached to my to-do list. Like it, you know, I was able to develop that part of my identity, which made me more of like a whole person.
Exactly. And I think that's so important, Onnie, because if our identity as a mom, if our identity is being a mom, then we go through a crisis when our children leave or when they don't need us anymore. So you got prepared in advance. And I know why you did remember the third question. It's because you already answered, which is great, which was, how did you do it?
Okay.
But I'm still gonna, throw the ball back at you because you did answer, but I'm gonna give you the chance to say it in other words. How did you get out of that pattern of, or how did you get out, or how did you get rid of the shame and the guilt? Yeah, that's how I'm going to ask it.
Okay. So one, I mean, I already mentioned that positive reinforcement is what I needed because I had those expectations were those ingrained in like beliefs that I was holding. And so once I was able to create like some evidence that went against those beliefs, I started chipping away and realizing that those aren't true anymore. Like they're not serving me. They're not true anymore. And then I was able to create these new beliefs that did serve me, that was going to like make me even better as I started replacing those old beliefs. And our beliefs are what's fueling our thoughts. And our thoughts are what creates those emotions, and guilt and shame are emotions. So once I started shifting those underlying beliefs, my thoughts started changing, and then what I felt, right? And so with the guilt, it's not that I don't ever experience guilt anymore. There is, but I'm definitely able to refocus and redirect my thoughts and reframe them so much quicker. And where that guilt, like, it doesn't weigh me down anymore. I'm like, it is what it is. Like, and I can move on and I can create, because I've created so much evidence against the beliefs that were fueling the guilt.
That is important. What you just said, Onnie. I'm sorry, I misformed your name, Onnie. It's so important because you created new evidence. Wow.
Yeah. So those beliefs don't, they just don't hold the weight that they once did. And so the guilt and the shame, I was able to let that go. Like it wasn't serving me at all.
And I like that you just finished with it wasn't serving me anymore, because I was going to ask, was there any way where the guilt and the shame were maybe in a tiny way serving you?
Sure. I mean, it was. I wouldn't have held on to it as long as I did if it wasn't.
So how was it?
Yeah.
serving you.
So I'm sure like looking back, like there were ways that it was serving me. I mean, I was able, like, it kept me, it kept me like serving my family, right? Like it kept me, I wouldn't have homeschooled my kids. Like, I mean, I don't know. It's kind of taken like there's movies where they do like the split, like what would have happened, what did happen. You know, I can't say what like, and not that I homeschooled out of guilt, but there was a piece of that felt like that fed into that belief that to be a good mom, you have to like, you want to be around your kids 24/7, or you want to, you know, I can't think off the top of my head, but you know what I mean?
I get what you're saying. And there's like two aspects that are coming out. There's the guilt and the shame, and then there's the desire of being the good mom. So when you were homeschooling, you were doing what you thought was being a good mom.
Right.
And is it possible that in your head, so you were doing it, so there was no shame and guilt?
No.
So it was not those feelings, I think, that were fueling you. It was a desire to be a good mom. So I would think, and it was from a good place, but then that good intention could have gotten in the way later on. I know I was also homeschooling my children, and for me, it was that came in. So I don't want to push, what's on me on you, but I want to bounce it off you, see how you lived.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. Like the guilt and the shame wasn't like the reason why I homeschooled her. Like it, but I'm sure the same beliefs that were fueling my guilt, and like those weren't the only two emotions that were coming from it, right?
That's a relief.
Yeah. So the beliefs that I held weren't necessarily bad beliefs. Yeah. They weren't beliefs that like, and so I was able to just deconstruct that, deconstruct those beliefs and say like, well, what do I want to keep of that? And what do I want to, what's not serving me? Like, what can I get rid of?
Yes.
So, I mean, even though it was the same emotions coming from those beliefs, it wasn't, there was other good things that came from those beliefs as well.
Of course.
As far as the guilt and shame serving me, or like, was there anything that
benefits?
Like a benefit. I mean, I don't think guilt is a bad thing. I don't.
Okay.
Guilt keeps us from like committing crimes and like, like in general, like feeling guilty is almost like you're conscious or you're unconscious. I mean, saying like, hey, that might not be a good idea.
Yes.
So it's not like, I don't think emotions are good or bad.
But that I agree.
Yeah. It was just the guilt and the shame, like are just around me being like able to pursue my own interests. What was keeping me small. So I really had to do some diving into that, some journaling, some talking, some self-discovery, like some kind of self-help in that whole arena to really dig out and dissect like what's going on for me, and why do I feel that I have to give up so much and sacrifice so much when I felt like the pieces of me were just like dying. And I wasn't recognizing myself in the mirror. I was like, I was not a fun mom, right? Like I felt like I was the one that had to keep control, like keep everything in order. And it prevented me from being able to just relax. And like I said, I think I had like some control issues because I did like, I was always on guard, or like always protecting my image per se, that I, as a mom, that I was never able to just relax and enjoy and be present in the moment, because I was always so concerned with like, okay, I read an article about kids can't read. I mean, kids can't play video games. No Xboxes in our house, right? Like that kind of stuff, but that it was like, instead of being able to trust my own intuition and using that to guide. And I feel like that is a lot with self-love, is self-trust.
Exactly. Self-confidence, self-esteem.
All the selves.
Exactly. Yeah, that's a big one. And I appreciate that you just said that last piece about reading an article. and then implementing it, because I had to do I had to forgive myself, like taking some things that one of my friend had said, and then I implemented it because I thought that was being a good mom, and I felt so wrong. Like I even want to cry when I think about it again. And other times it was like talking with my husband, and we read this book, and he's like, "Oh yeah, we should do this," and I was the one implementing it. Yeah. And now like the kids are like, "Yeah, we weren't allowed to do that," and like I'm the weird one now. Like, yeah.
Yeah, it happens. I always tell you, I'm like, I don't know what the heck I'm doing. Like I've never raised you before. I don't know.
What I say, especially for the two older ones, that I was a mother to them before I was 25. So I tell them, hey, my frontal lobe wasn't even all formed. Okay, so give me a break. I was immature.
That's great. That's great.
Exactly. Yes. Oh boy, amazing. So now you went through your self-love journey, your self-discovery, and then you decided to. There's a lot of steps, but you started your own business, and you named it Moms Without a Cap.
No, Moms Without Capes.
Without capes. Okay, I'm a francophone, and I'm like, it's the same thing, but no, a cap and a cape.
Yes.
Thank you for the English lesson, Onnie. I appreciate it. So, Moms Without Capes. Why did you choose that name?
I chose that name because there is such again an expectation for moms to be these superheroes. You see like moms are superheroes without capes, right?
Yeah.
And I believe that moms shouldn't have to live up to that expectation of being a superhero. Like take your cape off, because when you have your cape on and you think you have to be the super mom, it keeps you in this perpetual state of overwhelm and feeds that belief that you're failing, right?
Exactly.
Because
not good
we're
enough.
expected to be these like superhumans that can do all these things and take care of everyone and everything and do all these things like hustle culture promotes. And we end up feeling like we're failing. We end up feeling like we're not enough.
Exactly.
And so with Moms Without Capes, it's kind of like, take off your cape, learn to be present, learn to relax, learn to put yourself on your own to-do list, because that's how you're going to be the amazing mom that you are. Like, instead of trying to live up to these expectations that not only society places on us, but like that have become ingrained in ours.
Exactly. That we put on ourselves. Yes, totally. Wow, that's amazing. And I really appreciate talking with you. You're fun. It's easygoing. We're going to have to wrap up. I know you have a gift.
Yeah,
for people that want to connect with you. Before that, what are your final thoughts? What would you like to share with us to end this beautiful interview?
Sure. So one of the things when you are working on self-discovery, right? If you're a mom who doesn't even recognize yourself in the mirror, or you're thinking, I don't even know what it is that I would do if I had, the time to do it. And because it's been so long since you've given yourself that time and space, I want you just to start by asking yourself, what do I need? What do I want? Right? Like, just give yourself that space, that gift of being able to ask yourself that, because you're 100% responsible for your own life, right? Nobody's more responsible for your life than you are. And you are more than a mom. You are so much more than a mom. And so mom is just a role that you're in. It's an amazing role, and it's a very important one, but it's not all you are. So take a minute and just ask yourself, what do I want? What do I need? Do some journaling on it. Write down, some things that maybe from your childhood, things that you used to enjoy doing, and then make that time to do it. You're so important. You're so important.
Wow. You said so many awesome things in there. You know how we like to take quotes from our speakers? Like everything you just said in there. I'm like, Melanie, our copywriter, I'm gonna tell her
all Instagram worthy though.
I mean, look at the rest. It's good. You're gonna have more than 7 for Onnie. So amazing. And by the way, I love your nails. Purple nails are beautiful.
That's so funny because I told you I just came back from visiting my family in Pennsylvania. Yes. And that was one of the things I went with my mom and sister. I never get manicures. It's never been like on my self-care thing. And my mom was like, we're going to go get manicures. And I'm like, I don't know about that. And she's like, no, you're going to like it. You're going to like it. So thank you for the compliment.
Yes. Well, and this is funny. Because your mom is the one that went for the self-care. It's her self-care. You're the one that was visiting.
I had to remind her. I'm like, you do self-care, Mom. You might not call it self-care, but you're right. She does. Yes. My sister gets her out of the box.
That's lovely. I love it. I love the sisterhood and the body. Okay, Onnie. Sorry, that's my French accent. I want to call you Onnie. I like you, but Onnie. And thank you for laughing about it. That's making me feel comfortable and accepted also. Onnie, I know that you have a gift for people that want to connect and maybe want to know more about moms without capes. Could you tell us about it, please?
Yep. So I have a list. If you're not used to practicing self-care, I have a list of 15 self-care practices that you can do that are under 15 minutes. And so that way you just have a starting point. It goes through each of the 5 pillars of self-care.
Yes.
So ways to practice self-care with physical, emotional, spiritual, intellectual, and social. So you've got some choices there, but I don't want to add to your overwhelm. So they're really quick and easy ways to practice self-care. And I'll go ahead and give you that link afterwards, Nikky, so you can throw it in the show notes or the comments.
Wow. Oh, that's amazing. It's generous. And I love that it's 15 minutes. So there's no excuse. Every mom can find 15 minutes for her, even if she has to run to the bathroom, to take that time alone.
Like my goal is to get you out of the bathroom so you're not hiding in the bathroom just to get your break.
There we go. So you bring them a step further.
I've been there. I've done that. Yeah. It's not a break when your kid's banging on the door saying, Mom.
I was there too. I don't have to hide no more. Oh, it's amazing. It's amazing. Onnie, this was so fun. Really, it was a fun interview.
Thanks for having me, Nikky. This was fun.
Thank you. You've got a beautiful spirit. I don't know how to say, but you laugh so much. You're present.
Thank you.
It's amazing. It's been a bliss for me, blissful rather for me to welcome you today on this show. So we'll be in contact for other projects coming up for the Coconut Soul.
Definitely.
Take care. All the best to you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
What an inspiring interview. As Onnie says it, take off your cape. That's how you're going to be an amazing mom. To access Onnie's 15 self-care ideas, click the link below.
Realizing that it's okay to change kind of midlife, or whenever that might be for you.